My love is like a flower, I'm trying to get you over. You like love sour, then you should come try my poison.
And hello again to another First Chapters. I'm Rodney V. Smith. The V is for vampiric. Now, I'm a Wattpad author and star, and also the winner of a Wattie Award in 2018 for my novel, The Canefield Killer. I've started this, at least a couple of series on YouTube here to feature some of the work that I've come across on Wattpad, and that I've enjoyed or at least heard a lot about. Because my friends are authors, they of course talk about the work, and some of it sounds really interesting, but sometimes it's hard to get around to actually reading some of it. So this is a way for me to really get into the books and introduce them to other people at the same time. Now, for tonight's book, this is from this friend of mine, Gordon Piper. He's one of my favorite intellectuals in the Wattpad page stories program, and we kind of picked up on each other's vibe because we're both a little bit of the older guys. Sorry for outing you there, Gordon, but we are some of the older writers, and there's a little bit of the whole intellectual vibe going on. So it's a fun relationship, and he's wickedly funny. A lot of people pretty much respect him, but this book of his, it came about from this a dare between one of the Wattpad staff, Nick. I didn't write his last name, but Nick, he's one of the Wattpad staff, and one of the writers, Druid Rose. This is MB Dalto. I covered one of her books. The idea for this one is that Gordon would take all of the genres, pretty much any genre, like YA, romance, vampires, werewolves, and just try to make them work. And he had to make it funny. Well, at least I think that was one of the prerequisites. It ended up being pretty much hilarious, and I read the hell out of this one, and I loved it, and I wanted to share it. So I'm breaking the rules again about some of the books that I'm sharing, but this was one of the good ones that came up, and I figured since I'm doing this, it will be a very good choice. So now it has been a while since I've read this, so it's going to be as fresh to me as it is to you. As always, the links are in the description. Okay, so are you ready? Let me do it, and let's go. Oh, I forgot to mention the title of the book. It's My Bad Boy, Werewolf, Quadrillionaire, Space Lord. You cannot beat that title in terms of just hilarity, and it's something that you think you see coming, but you really don't, because this book is absolutely hilarious. Let me just find the page, because I just had it here. Oh boy. I'm going to have to search it again. There we go. My Bad Boy. The synopsis. He has the very first line in the synopsis is that proof that Wattpad has enough culture to make fun of. Okay, synopsis for My Bad Boy, Werewolf, Quadrillionaire, Space Lord. Luca Cardego is the world's first and only quadrillionaire, so rich he has single-handedly financed the terraforming of an entire world. He is also an unapologetic playboy with a possible shirt allergy, and a werewolf. But when space pirate Isabella Bonny crash lands onto his world and into his life, she threatens to uncover more than just a secret buried beneath the Martian soil. She also upends his life in other ways and leaves him desiring more than vapid socialites and endless pool parties on space yachts. This, finally, is the werewolf story taken as seriously as Wattpad deserves. It's the first book of the Werewolves in Space series. Okay, so we're gonna go into it. I gotta keep looking at it because I keep forgetting the name. My Bad Boy, Werewolf, Quadrillionaire, Space Lord. Chapter 1. A New World. He took a breath. The first breath ever taken on his new world. His spacesuit's expensive helmet lay in the grass beside his feet. The chest piece was unzipped to his sternum, and the cool air of an untouched planet wafted between the radiation shielding material and his bare chest. Morning dew clung to his collar, and tiny rivulets of water were dripping down the contours of his chest as he stared up at the distant sun. His fingers itched to shed the rest of the irritating, confining suit and run to the horizon, but he wasn't alone yet. Not quite yet. "Mr. Cardego, your suit is recording a breach. Please respond," his secretary called through the speakers in his helmet, her normally sultry voice trained in panic. He grinned, recalling having heard a very similar tone from her in the cabin of his yacht. Luca Cardego turned back to the shimmering distortion in space-time he had walked through, a perfectly round wormhole, pitch black and just a few inches taller than him, that led to the mission control room back on Earth. He didn't want to respond, but if he ignored them, a rescue party might follow and spoil the moment. He sighed, a little disappointed, before he picked up the helmet and put his mouth near the radio. "Viviana, honey, I haven't heard that tone of yours in hours," he said softly, barely more than a husky whisper. "And if it's just the two of us, you're allowed to call me Luca. Honey was fine. Calling me master last weekend was a bit much, though." A chorus of laughter roared over the radio, and he could practically hear his secretary blush. Before he could respond, Luca said, "I took off my helmet. The air's perfect, and the radiation levels here are lower than on Earth. Our little terraforming project worked beautifully." "Little? You spent like $1 quadrillion on it," Viviana exclaimed over the radio. "Is that actually a word?" Luca asked incredulously. "Because it sounds like the kind of nonsense you make up when you don't know the name of a big number, like zillion or Google. It comes after a trillion, and it's the estimated value of Mars, now that your terraforming project has worked. An entire world made up of pristine virgin landscape. The board is ecstatic. We are already making plans for another Scrooge McDuck money vault," Viviana said. Quieter, she added, "And I expect to wear the most expensive bikini in existence to the celebration, Mr. Cardego. My wardrobe malfunction should cost more than your last yacht." "Pristine virgin landscape. I haven't had that in weeks," Luca mused. He then grinned wolfishly, a sly thought dredging up mirth he had to share. "I wonder how long I should wait to tell the board I'm not parceling it up and selling it." "What?" Viviana shrieked. Not an unfamiliar experience for Luca, but the distress much more genuine than he was used to hearing. "You're not?" "It's my planet. Why on earth would I sell it?" Luca asked. He chuckled and added, "Have to say, I like that expression a lot more now that I own a planet." "Luca, honey, there must be something in the air. You're not making sense," Viviana pleaded, clearly terrified by the horror of not recouping the cost of this project. "Making sense. I see what you did there. Clever one, Viviana. But let's be clear. I never intended to let a bunch of stuffy, entitled billionaires who have never done a day of work in their lives plunder this virgin world. Have you looked in the mirror? Because the day you spend at nothing but work is the day the Earth ends," Viviana retorted. "Good thing I have my own planet. I wasn't going to announce it for a few days, but I think I'd like to be a lord," Luca admitted. He unzipped the spacesuit down to his waist, letting it fall away. His bare arms glistened from the wet air of the dewy morning and trickled across the ridges of his washboard abs. And Luca was willing to call them washboard abs. He had done laundry in them before. It was a popular party trick. "Luca, the only reason you're not a billionaire is because you have too much money," Viviana added. "Is Earth's only trillionaire really just in this to be a lord? Because if you had accepted that honorary British citizenship, you could have been an earl by now. Quadrillionaire. And I'm not just a lord now, Viviana. I'm a space lord." "Star-Lord, honey. It has a much better ring to it," Viviana replied, returning to that slightly breathless, sultry tone that he might have hired her for. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that one again. Yes, I apologize. "Star-Lord, honey. It has a much better ring to it," Viviana replied, returning to that slightly breathless, sultry tone that he might have hired her for. It had been a while. Luca really wasn't certain. "Wasn't that title trademarked?" Just threaten to fire a giant laser at them if anyone complains, Viviana replied. Okay, I'm warming up to the idea. It's going to need a lot of hands-on work, but I know you're good at handling things. A single, undivided world under the rule of a single beautiful man has a lot of appeal, especially in this day and age. You are exceedingly sexy when you're clever, Luca said. He reached into the pocket of his suit and took out a small device. I'll pop another portal in a few hours. I want to be alone with this virgin world for a bit before I have to share him. Mars was named after the god of war. Kratos? Luca asked. No, you... Viviana trailed off, cursing. You're still hot when you swear, darling. We'll talk soon, Luca said, as he pointed the device at the wormhole. Luca had expected an appropriately dramatic sound to accompany a wormhole collapse. The rapid dissipation of a fold in space-time deserved a dramatic whooshing sound, a strange explosive blast of light, or at least something similar to the bass dropping in dubstep. Instead, an unfolding wormhole sounded entirely too much like someone let go of a balloon, or a chorus of children blowing a raspberry. A few technicians had insisted it sounded precisely like a fart. As far as he knew, they still hadn't found their way out of the wilderness in northern Manitoba. Whoa. Okay, that happened. As far as he knew, they still hadn't found their way out of the wilderness in northern Manitoba where he had portaled them. But he still smiled at the sound. It meant that for the first time in his life, Luca was alone. Alone in a way that wasn't possible on a world with billions of people. Excuse me. Let's do that again. But he still smiled at the sound. It meant that for the first time in his life, Luca was alone. Alone in a way that wasn't possible on a world with billions of people. He was standing on a field of grass so far away from Earth that no telescope on Earth could see him. No possibility of paparazzi, private investigators, jilted girlfriends, or hordes of teenage girls suffering from a recent dearth in quality boy bands. He breathed his first free breath. He could taste the harvested bacteria that had thrived for a decade, transforming the air and land. The oceans of ice moved by a wormhole from the Jovian moons. Even the salt from the tears of small children had gone into the terraforming project. The tears were a joke, mostly to see how much money it would take to see a scientist insist on television that was necessary. Oh. Okay, let me go again. The tears were a joke, mostly to see how much money it would take to see a scientist insist on television that it was necessary. Surprisingly cheap, in the end. Student loans put a lot of stress on people who went through school. Luca wondered why people bothered when facts were so cheap. But right now, people weren't as concerned. For a few blessed hours, he was alone, free to be who he was, free to be all of who he was. He let the rest of the suit drop to the grass and stepped out of it. His bare feet sank into the plush green as his toes gripped at the blades, rustling in the wind. The breeze caressing his bare chest enthralled him in a way even Viviana couldn't. His hair waved behind him, free and feral. Luke turned his lips to the sky, to the tiny twin moons in the sky of his new world, and he howled a distinctly wolfish howl. His secret, the part of him he could never indulge on Earth. The wolf. The transformation started from the eyes. Colors faded, but the world grew sharper, like looking through a monochrome... Colors faded, but the world grew sharper, like looking through a monochrome monitor with much better resolution. The nose and teeth followed, chiseled jawline replaced by bone-crushing strength and teeth meant for the hunt. Fur replaced the fussy manscaping required of any playboy trillionaire who spent most of his workdays shirtless. Sculpted muscles bulged with inhuman strength, and carefully manicured nails became claws that ripped into the soft soil, pushing him into a race with the wind. Luca's Luca's paws tore up little clumps of grass as he charged towards the horizon, his long mouth open in a feral smile, and a joy too simple and too pure for the complicated apathy of the world he had finally left behind. Luca raced into the distance, rushing to see this untouched world for the first time. His world. Okay, and that is the end of chapter 1. It has been a very long time since I've read this one. Let's see. Oh, wait. Transition. Okay, so it's been a very long time since I've actually read, oh my gosh, my bad boy Quadrillionaire, Space Lord. So that was a nice refresher. The plot really picks up after this, but is a brilliant introduction to our only quadrillionaire and just the thought of being alone on a planet. All right, so what was I gonna do? I had something to say, but I forgot it. Anyway, go and read the rest of the book. Gordon is known as Arveliot on Wattpad. You can find him on Twitter as well under Arveliot. The link is down in the description, so go and definitely check it out. It is a hell of a read, and you will have a blast reading it. That's it for my bad boy Quadrillionaire Space Lord. And all right, and yes, he has other novels. Some of them are in the Wattpad Page Stories program, so you should really get to enjoy those as well, because they are brilliant, great fantasy, and just that little bit of wit that really it really makes a novel worth it. I mean, like when you find it something that can make you laugh just by thinking about what was just said, you can't beat that. Okay, so that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining. Don't forget to click the like button down below and subscribe if you want to listen to me read some more first chapters. I release 5 days a week, and there's always something new to find. So, happy reading.
She said, my love is like a flower. I'm trying to get you over. You like love sour, then you should come try my poison.